Αξιότιμε κύριε Πρύτανη, αξιότιμα μέλη του Συμβουλίου Διοίκησης του Ελληνικού Ανοικτού Πανεπιστημίου, αξιότιμη κύριε Αντιπρυτάνης, αξιότιμε ομότιμε καθηγητή John Bessant, αξιότιμε κύριε Κοσμήτορα, αξιότιμες κυρίες και κύριοι καθηγητές, αξιότιμες κυρίες, αξιότιμοι κύριοι, με ιδιαίτερη χαρά σας καλωσορίζουμε στην τελετή αναγόρευσης του Ομότιμου Καθηγητή του Πανεπιστημίου του Exeter, John Bessant, σε επίτιμο διδάκτορα της Σχολής Κοινωνικών Επιστημών του Ελληνικού Ανοικτού Πανεπιστημίου. Honorable Rector, dear members of the Governing Board of the Hellenic Open University, Honorable Vice Rectors, esteemed Emeritus Professor Bessant, Honorable Dean, dear Professors, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the conferment ceremony of Emeritus Professor of the University of Exeter, John Bessant, as Honorary Doctor of the School of Social Sciences of the Hellenic Open University. Παρακαλούμε τον πρίτανη του Ελληνικού Ανοικτού Πανεπιστημίου, Καθηγητή Εμμανουήλ Κουτούζη, όπως προσέλθει για έναν σύντομο χαιρετισμό. We kindly invite the Rector of the Hellenic Open University, Professor Emmανουήλ Κουτούζης, for an opening address.
Dear Professor, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it's with great honor and pleasure that we welcome you here at this ceremony, in which we are going to confirm Professor Emeritus John Bessant as an Honorable Doctor of the School of Social Sciences of the Hellenic Open University, as a recognition for his contribution to education, research, and innovation. As you probably know, awarding the title of Honorable Doctor is one of the most significant academic distinctions awarded in persons, in scientists, in researchers with renowned international status, with a great contribution in research in various areas, and I would say in the greater society. So Professor Bessant is definitely one of these cases. He's a renowned academic, researcher, and consultant, and I might say that he's one of the persons that has had a global influence in his area of study and research. About 5 minutes ago, I learned that he tried to enter into another field of study. So we may have the chance to meet him again with another hat, that of a psychologist. Anyway, that obviously shows his dedication to education, to lifelong learning. And again, 5 minutes ago, I learned that Professor Bessant has studied at the British Open University. So in a way, we are very close. We are very related. So thank you, Professor, for being with us. During his career, he has definitely contributed to the way we understand innovation, and the way we understand how organizations create and sustain innovation, both gradual but also radical innovation. I think this is quite important. And it's also interesting that Professor Bessant did not stay at the level of organizations, but from what I read, I did my quick research for you. He insisted in communicating and creating communication and links between the organization and policies and policymakers. And I think this is very important, not just stay in the barriers of an organization, but try to make organizations part of the policy and make that communication effective. So I think Professor Bessant has already done that. And of course, he has served as a counselor or as a consultant in governments, international organizations such as the European Union, the OECD, the United Nations, and so on. I think that it's fair to say that Professor Bessant has helped us in creating a more collective understanding of innovation and the way this innovation can feed policies and, of course, can relate to organizational effectiveness. So I'm very honored and pleased to have you here, Professor. I would like to congratulate you for your work, your contribution to education, to research, to innovation, and to lifelong learning. Your outstanding achievement, and may I wish you all the best for your future, which is, there are lots of things you could study from now on. You're still too young, so life is yours from now on. So thank you for being here. We're really pleased. Let me just conclude by congratulating the Dean of the School of Social Sciences, Professor Theodoridis, for his proposal and the honor that we have now to have you here. Thank you, Professor Theodoridis. I wish we could have more and more occasions like that in our university. Thank you for becoming part of our family here. Okay, thank you so much.
Παρακαλούμε τον κοσμήτορα της Σχολής Κοινωνικών Επιστημών, καθηγητή Προκόπη Θεοδωρίδη, όπως προσέλθει για ένα σύντομο χαιρετισμό. We kindly invite Dean of the School of Social Sciences, Professor Prokopis Theodoridis, for a short greeting.
Okay, short is a great work. Okay, it's about 10 pages. 24, sorry. The idea, for today comes not from me, dear rector, but from Associate Professor Constantelou, that proposed Professor Bessant for this honor to be a Doctor of Social Science. So, Honorable Rector, esteemed Vice Rectors and members of the Governing Board, distinguished colleagues, honored guests, and more especially our distinguished honoree, Professor John Bessant, Emeritus Professor John Bessant. This is right. It's a great pleasure and a deep honor to address you today on behalf of the School of Social Science of the Hellenic Open University on this very special occasion, the conferral of the title of Honorary Doctor upon Emeritus Professor John Bessant. Today is a day of celebration and of meaning of our school. It is an occasion that invites us to reflect on the academic identity and international outlook of the School of Social Science and to formally welcome Emeritus Professor Bessant into our academic family. The School of Social Science is one of the 4 foundational academic units of the Hellenic Open University, established in 1997. Our mission is to provide knowledge and skills in the field of social sciences with a particular emphasis on administrative, economic, legal, and policy-oriented disciplines. With over 65,000 students enrolled since its inception and more than 30,000 graduates, over the 2/3 of whom are women, the School of Social Science serves as a cornerstone of open and inclusive education in Greece. We currently offer 24 study programs, including undergraduate, postgraduate, and joint programs with other universities, as well as doctoral studies. The school's academic body comprises a vibrant community of faculty and more than 800 collaborating teaching staff. But what truly defines the School of Social Science is its commitment to openness. This includes open access to education, interdisciplinary academic dialogue, and international collaboration. These principles are not only part of our institutional strategy, they are embedded in the very culture of the Hellenic Open University. In this context, the conference of honorary doctorate represents one of our most important expressions of academic identity. It is through this gesture that we embrace global thought leaders and connect our students and staff with world-class knowledge. It is also through this gesture that we recognize values that align with our own: academic excellence, relevance to society, innovation, and impact. Emeritus Professor Bessant embodies these values. His prolific and highly influential work in innovation management, entrepreneurship, and organizational development has shaped both research, academic research, and practical applications around the world. His leadership is defining responsible innovation practices, building inter-organizational learning networks, and designing policy tools for technological development resonate deeply with the research and teaching priorities of the School of Social Sciences. It is therefore particularly fitting that this honorary doctorate is awarded in conjunction with the MSc program in Innovation Management and Entrepreneurship, a postgraduate program launched in 2022 under the academic oversight of the School of Social Science. The MSc Innovation Management and Entrepreneurship seeks to equip students with the skills to lead innovation in complex, dynamic environments. It brings together theory and practice, research and real-world application, local relevance, and international standards. Although it is still a young program, the MSc Innovation Management and Entrepreneurship is a clear reflection of our school's academic philosophy: to create spaces of learning where students, scholars, and professionals converge to rethink the future of work, business, and society. We are especially proud that today's honoree has contributed so fundamentally to the fields that lie at the heart of this program. As a Dean of School of Social Science, I see today not merely as a celebration of academic distinction, but as a confirmation of our school's commitment to international engagement and scholarly cooperation. It is a reminder of our ongoing responsibility to foster a global learning environment where ideas are exchanged, values are shared, and students are inspired by those who lead by example. Dear Emeritus Professor Bessant, by accepting this title, you honor us and much of we honor you. We became part of a growing network of individuals and institutions committed to advancing social and economic knowledge through education, research, and policy. Your legacy is now inscribed in the history of the School of Social Science and the Hellenic Open University. On behalf of all faculty, staff, and students, I thank you and welcome you warmly to our academic community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dean. Παρακαλούμε τη Διευθύντρια του Προγράμματος Μεταπτυχιακών Σπουδών MSc in Innovation Management and Entrepreneurship, αναπληρώτρια καθηγήτρια του Πανεπιστημίου Αιγαίου, κυρία Αναστασία Κωνσταντέλου, όπως προσέλθει για την παρουσίαση του έργου του τιμόμενου ακαδημαϊκού. We kindly invite the director of the MSc program in Innovation Management and Entrepreneurship, Associate Professor at the University of the Aegean, Dr. Anastasia Konstantelou, to present Emeritus Professor Bessant academic work and achievement.
Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed colleagues, members of the academic community, dear graduates, distinguished guests, Professor John Bessant, welcome to the special occasion for the Hellenic Open University and for our MSc program in Innovation Management and Entrepreneurship. Knowing how much time John spends nowadays in Cyprus, I was tempted to deliver this speech in Greek, but then I thought it would be a step too far. Hopefully I will be able to do this in the future. And then my second idea was to sing for John rather than delivering a speech, because that would probably make him happy, since he is the leader of a band called The Business. And some of his educational videos are recorded with his own musical themes as a background. But then I thought that would make our rector not very happy. So it is both a pleasure and an honor to stand before you today to mark this moment that brings together the values of the Hellenic Open University, academic excellence, social relevance, and the spirit of openness. And we could not find a better person to represent these values than Professor Emeritus John Bessant. We are here to officially inaugurate Professor Emeritus John Bessant as an honorary doctoral scholar of the Hellenic Open University, a title reserved for those who have made an enduring impact on knowledge, practice, and society. The title of honorary doctor is not simply a recognition of distinguished scholarship, though that is certainly the case here. It is also recognition of a deep alignment between the life's work of the honoree and the mission of the awarding institution. In the profile of Professor Bessant, we recognize a career defined not only by intellectual rigor, but by purpose, a purpose that resonates with our own commitment to accessible, affordable, and transformative education. Now, allow me to provide some information about the honoree. Professor Emeritus John Bessant was born in London and educated in the UK and in South Africa. He holds a bachelor degree in chemical engineering from the University of Aston, a PhD in innovation management, and recently a bachelor degree in psychology. He's also multilingual, with proficiency in English, German, French, and Spanish. Being able to speak so many languages, he has also been able to understand different cultures, understand how people behave, what were their concerns and drawbacks, all of which are very essential in people's acceptance of changes that innovations often bring in organizational settings. Professor Bessant has had a distinguished academic career focused on innovation and technology management. His career spans more than 4 decades and includes leading academic positions, influential publications, and global collaborations across academia, industry, and the government. He has served key academic roles at the University of Exeter, Imperial College London, Cranfield University, University of Brighton, and the University of Sussex. He has also been a visiting professor in countries across Europe, such as Germany, Norway, and Luxembourg, and a senior fellow at various innovation research institutes. Professor Bessant is a prolific author with over 45 books and monographs, more than 150 peer-reviewed journal articles, numerous book chapters and conference papers. His work has been translated into multiple languages, including Chinese, Spanish, Japanese, and even in Greek. Notable titles include the Managing Innovation book, together with Joe Tidd, now in its 7th edition, Innovation and Entrepreneurship, now in its 4th edition, as well as titles on topics such as continuous improvement, radical innovation, technology transfer, and responsible and sustainable innovation. Through seminal books such as Managing Innovation, he has demystified innovation, transforming it from a buzzword into a management discipline, one that can be fostered, measured, and scaled. Professor Bessant has served at the editorial board of major journals in our field, including Technovation, R&D Management, and Creativity and Innovation Management. Throughout his career, Professor Bessant has been working on understanding and helping others to understand how ideas are turned into valuable artifacts and how academic research can improve the life of individuals, businesses, and society. Having developed an engineering mind by training, he's not only an academic with a strong theoretical background, but also an academic with a strong interest in making innovation happen. His research addresses critical questions, such as how can organizations manage innovation for both incremental and more radical change? How firms develop innovation capabilities, that is, the ability to innovate continuously and proactively. How to support innovation practices in small and medium-sized enterprises. How to develop high-involvement innovation, including the breakthrough idea of learning networks, where different companies interact and share knowledge with each other. What does it take to build an innovation-friendly culture within an organization, not just in companies, but in societies too? How to design effective innovation policies, learning from the experience of successful nations? What can universities do to make a stronger economy and a better society? Professor Bessant is internationally recognized for shaping how innovation is understood and practiced. His research has reached decision makers in boardrooms, classrooms, and policy circles. His work goes far beyond the traditional boundaries of academia. He is a bridge builder between theory and practice, between high-level strategy and grassroots implementation. He has come up with the idea of the closing the loop strategy for research, which means helping the academic researchers and practitioners to interact, helping the researchers to understand the practitioners' priorities, and at the same time translating theory into practice and making it meaningful for practitioners to understand and use. In his own words, and yes, I have done my homework myself, he was happy to work with the trade association or the National Health System, the NHS at the UK, get executives to be interested in, and then support those who would be prepared to go beyond their comfort zone and change their organization with all the others looking on. He promoted and set up communities of practice among executives which were eager to learn and innovate, irrespective of sector or place. His emphasis was not just on concept theorizing, but also on trying to put innovative ideas into practice by facilitating people to actually understand them and making change happen. The ethos of Professor Bessant's work is fully aligned with our university educational philosophy, as demonstrated in the recently launched MSc program in Innovation Management and Entrepreneurship. The Hellenic Open University philosophy is that knowledge must be relevant to the real world. It ought to address urgent social needs, and that it should be made available to all who seek it, regardless of geography, background, or age. Our MSc program on Innovation Management and Entrepreneurship has been built on the assumption that innovation is neither the domain of a privileged few nor the outcome of just luck, but a universal human capacity that can be nurtured through education. In this sense, the alignment between Professor Bessant's scholarship and the mission of our newly established MSc program at the Hellenic Open University could not be clearer. his insistence on participatory innovation, his emphasis on capability building, and his drive to translate research into real-world impact are the very principles that guide our work in the Hellenic Open University and in the MSc program. Indeed, one of the most powerful themes in Professor Bessant's work is that the innovation process should be democratic, encouraging collaboration across boundaries and inviting diverse voices into an open innovation process. In essence, this argues that the best ideas do not always come from the top. They can emerge bottom-up from frontline managers and workers, from communities, from students, from those who actually experience the problems we seek to solve. This is not just an academic insight, it is a call to action and one we are proud to follow. Over the years, many in our academic community have drawn inspiration from Professor Bessant's work. His frameworks have informed our teaching. His research has influenced how we design and evaluate change initiatives. He has engaged in collaborations across Europe and beyond, contributing to networks that support innovation ecosystems, not as abstract systems, but as living communities of people learning from one another. Personally, I have been struck by the clarity with which he communicates complex ideas, always with humility, always with a focus on what truly matters, enabling others to succeed. In a world increasingly shaped by uncertainty, be it technological disruption, economic volatility, or environmental crisis, the ability to innovate is not a luxury, it is a necessity. And the kind of innovation that Professor Bessant champions, collaborative, responsible, inclusive, is, allow me to argue, exactly what we need. As an honorary scholar of the Hellenic Open University, Professor Bessant joins our growing international community committed to advancing the frontiers of learning, technology, and social change. We look forward to the conversations, the co-creation, and the exchange of ideas that will emerge from this relationship. We envision new opportunities for our students to engage with global thought leaders, for our faculty to collaborate across borders, for our university to continue evolving as a hub of innovation, not only in Greece, but as part of a broader European and international network. Professor Bessant, we see in you not only a scholar of distinction, but a kindred spirit, someone who shares our belief that knowledge can be force of good, and that innovation can and should serve the many, not just the few. May this honor reflect not only our appreciation for your extraordinary contributions to the world of innovation, but also our enthusiasm for the journey ahead. We are proud to welcome you into our academic community, and we look forward to learning, growing, and building the future together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Παρακαλούμε τώρα τον κοσμήτορα καθηγητή Προκόπιο Θεοδωρίδη, όπως προσέλθει για την ανάγνωση του ψηφίσματος, της αναγόρευσης και της απονομής του τίτλου του Επίτιμου Διδάκτορα της Σχολής Κοινωνικών Επιστημών του Ελληνικού Ανοικτού Πανεπιστημίου στον ακαδημαϊκό John Bessant. We kindly invite Dean Professor Προκόπιος Θεοδωρίδης to proceed with the resolution, the conferment, and the awarding of the title of Honorary Doctor of the School of Social Sciences of the Hellenic Open University to the academic John Bessant.
Ψήφισμα. Με την ομόφωνη απόφαση της Κοσμητείας της Σχολής Κοινωνικών Επιστημών την 28η Ιανουαρίου του έτους 2025 και την ομόφωνη απόφαση της Συγκλήτου του Ελληνικού Ανοικτού Πανεπιστημίου την 4η Απριλίου του έτους 2025, αναγορεύεται επίτιμος διδάκτορας ο John Bessant Ομότιμος Καθηγητής του Πανεπιστημίου Exeter, για την εξαίρετη συμβολή του στον τομέα της καινοτομίας, σε ερευνητικό και εκπαιδευτικό επίπεδο, καθώς και στη διαμόρφωση σχετικών πολιτικών σε παγκόσμιο επίπεδο. Η Σχολή Κοινωνικών Επιστημών και η σύγκλιτος του Ελληνικού Ανοικτού Πανεπιστημίου αποφάσισαν ομόφωνα να αναγράψουν σε μεμβράνη το παρόν ψήφισμα που θα αναγνώσει και θα επιδώσει στον τιμόμενο ο κοσμήτωρας της Σχολής Κοινωνικών Επιστημών του Ελληνικού Ανοικτού Πανεπιστημίου σε ειδική τελετή στην Αθήνα την 23η Μαΐου του έτους 2025. Resolution. By the unanimous decision of the Deanery of the School of Social Science of the 28th day of January in the 3rd of 2025 and unanimous decision of the Senate of the Hellenic Open University of the 4th day of April in the year 2025, John Bessant, Emeritus Professor of the University of Exeter, is hereby conferred the title of Honorary Doctor for his outstanding contribution to the field of innovation in research and education, as well in the formulation of related policies globally. The School of Social Science and the Senate of the Hellenic Open University unanimously resolved to record this resolution on parchment, which shall be read and presented to the honoree by the Dean of the School of Social Sciences of the Hellenic Open University at a special ceremony to be held in Athens on 23rd day of May in the year 2025. Να τα διαβάσουμε. Αναγόρευση. Η Σχολή Κοινωνικών Επιστημών και η σύγκλιτος του Ελληνικού Ανοικτού Πανεπιστημίου έκριναν ομόφωνα τον John Bessant, ομότιμο καθηγητή του Πανεπιστημίου Exeter, άξιον να αναγορευτεί επίτιμος διδάκτορας της Σχολής Κοινωνικών Επιστημών του Ελληνικού Ανοικτού Πανεπιστημίου, ο κοσμήτωρας της Σχολής Κοινωνικών Επιστημών του Ελληνικού Ανοικτού Πανεπιστημίου, Προκόπιος Θεοδωρίδης, καθηγητής, αναγορεύει δημόσια τον John Bessant, ομότιμο καθηγητή του Πανεπιστημίου Exeter, επίτιμο διδάκτορα της Σχολής Κοινωνικών Επιστημών του Ελληνικού Ανοικτού Πανεπιστημίου και του απονέμει όλες τις προνομίες που απορρέουν από το πανεπιστημιακό αυτό αξίωμα. Η αναγόρευση πραγματοποιήθηκε στην Αθήνα την 23η Μαΐου του έτους 2025. Honorary Doctorate Conferral. The School of Social Science and the Senate of the Hellenic Open University have unanimously resolved to confirm John Bessant, Emeritus Professor of the University of Exeter, as worthy of being conferred the title of Honorary Doctor of the School of Social Science of the Hellenic Open University, the Dean of the School of Social Science of the Hellenic Open University, Prokopoulos Theodoridis, Professor, hereby publicly confers upon John Bessant, Emeritus Professor of the University of Exeter, the title of Honorary Doctor of the School of Social Science of the Hellenic Open University, and bestows upon him all the rights and privileges associated with this academic distinction. The conference was conducted in Athens on 23rd day of May in the year 2025. Okay, please. Congratulations. Please come.
We kindly invite Honorary Dr. John Bessant to come forward for the award by the Dean. Please stay. Παρακαλούμε τον Πρύτανη Καθηγητή Εμμανουήλ Κουτούζη, όπως προσέλθει για την περιένθηση με την Τίβαινο και την παράδοση τιμητικής πλακέτας στον Επίτιμο Διδάκτορα. We kindly invite Rector Professor Emmanuil Κουτούζης to proceed with the robing and the presentation of the honorary plaque to the doctor. Ακολουθεί η ομιλία του Επίτιμου Διδάκτορα της Σχολής Κοινωνικών Επιστημών του Ελληνικού Ανοικτού Πανεπιστημίου John Bessant με τίτλο Learning to Manage Innovation in the World of the Red Queen. We conclude with the speech of the Honorary Doctor for the School of Social Sciences of the Hellenic Open University, John Bessant, titled Learning to Manage Innovation in the World of the Red Queen.
I don't know what to say, but thank you so much. I'm immensely proud. This is fantastic. Ευχαριστώ πολύ. I'm afraid that's as far as my Greek runs for the moment, but very much appreciated. Thank you so much for all the organization, to everyone who's made this event possible. But thank you also for shining a spotlight on the world of innovation. Because I think we need to recognize this really big word is also a word full of problems. The real problem we have with innovation is it's everywhere. I'll give you 5 minutes on any company website, you're going to hit the magic word. You know the kind of thing. Innovation, driving the business. Innovation, working for the customers. Innovation, innovation, it's everywhere. And of course, these days in the public sector, it's the same story. How do we deliver good services, education and healthcare? Aha, innovation. It's the word on every civil servant's lip, every politician. We need innovation. And if you take the really big challenges we face, the 17 sustainable development goals that are really about our planet, how are we going to deal with those? Well, the Secretary General himself from the United Nations, Mr. Guterres, basically says what we need is innovation. Now, let's be clear, this is really important. Let me give a working definition very briefly. Innovation for me is creating value from ideas. That could be commercial value, can also be social value. It's really important, it's fundamental. Much of the work I do these days in terms of research is with the humanitarian sector. We've got plenty of serious challenges. Sadly, not all of them natural disasters. We have plenty of man-made ones as well. But the challenge there is one of innovation, where it might be a matter literally of life and death. So this innovation thing is clearly important. But can I suggest that there's a real problem, which is it's not enough just to say, we believe in innovation, to wave the flag and say, innovation. If we're serious about this important thing, we have to do something about it. We have to learn to work with it. We have to learn to manage it. Now, that's something that's preoccupied me throughout my career, and thank you once again for those wonderful compliments. But basically, this challenge of learning to manage innovation is a really important one. But I have some good news for tonight, because we know how to do it. We should, because we've got at least 100 years of research and a great deal more practical experience of failure as well as success. We've got plenty to teach us, to the point that we can now run courses in this subject. We can provide guidance, we can write textbooks. There is even now an international standard, ISO 56001, if you want to know. But that basically sets out how to organize and manage innovation in organizations of all shapes and sizes, commercial, non-commercial. We know how to do it. And I'm not going to give you the long version, but let me distill that. What we've learned is innovation is not like the cartoons. You know, in the cartoons, bing, light bulb flashes. No, it's more than that. Yes, that light bulb is an idea. Like I said, innovation is creating value from ideas, but it doesn't just happen automatically. What we've learned is what we have to do to undertake that journey, and particularly to be able to do that again and again and again. We've learned, for example, that it's a process. It's not a flash. And basically that process starts with finding opportunities. So a lesson for any organization, if you want to innovate, make sure you're open. You're picking up the possibilities, the opportunities for innovation. Trouble is, these days, there's so many, we're kind of spoilt for choice. So we also need to learn how to choose, how to balance the risks and the rewards, how to balance between some projects which are going to succeed and others which we need to be a little more careful about. But we need to select. We also need to learn how to make things happen. This isn't just project management where we're balancing resources against time. This is about uncertainty. The thing with innovation, we don't know until we start whether or not it will succeed. So these days, the magic word is agile innovation. We have to be able to try something out and back away and perhaps stop, or more likely pivot and gradually work our way towards a solution that will work. And we need to be able to capture value from that, particularly to scale good ideas. Again, in the humanitarian sector, there are wonderful examples where a village or a region has dealt with some serious challenges. But that's not going to be enough. We also need to understand how we can scale these things to provide real impact. So that's enough to manage, but there are other lessons we've learned. Not least, we need some strategy. Innovation. If it's just a word, it's not going anywhere. We could dissipate our energies. If we're serious about it, we need to know where and how will innovation take us forward, and also to make sure everybody is coming on board with that. So we need a strategy and to communicate it. We're talking about a fundamentally human thing, our natural gift, our ingenuity, our creativity. In a sense, that's what we all have, fitted as standard equipment. But basically, we need to find ways to make that work inside our organizations. So we need to build an innovative organization, one that enables that kind of thing to happen. But for me, one of the big lessons we've learned in recent years is it's a multiplayer game. This is not just about what one organization does, it's about networks and connectivity. The most important lesson, though, I think we've learned is that if we're smart, we will learn. Nobody starts with a perfect model of how to manage innovation. If we're smart, we'll step back. We'll review what we do well, and we'll do more of that. And what isn't working so well, we'll stop and try something else. So those effective organizations, and there are plenty of them, role models for innovation, basically what they share is a commitment to learning. But that's the good news, ladies and gentlemen. We do know how to do it. For ourselves as academics, our task, of course, is to make sure that is available to people in ways that they can make use of. So we need to be able to challenge, to reflect, to do the kinds of things that we are doing in this and any other university, in any other educational venture. However, those smart of you in the audience will, of course, recognize there's a but coming. We know how to manage innovation. It's all right, but. And so for those of you wondering about my title, may I now introduce, slightly imaginary, you'll have to use your imagination, the Red Queen. Now, the Red Queen is an allusion, if you don't get it, to that wonderful educational resource, the book Alice in Wonderland, or more specifically, Alice Through the Looking Glass, the second book, because it's full of amazing characters, including the Red Queen. Now, she's a pretty impressive person. She can, for example, believe 3 impossible things before breakfast. So, pretty good. But whatever else you do, take a lesson from the book, which is do not try and play chess with her, for 3 very good reasons. First, she keeps changing the rules. So you think you knew the rules of chess, but no, she changes the rules. Second reason why you shouldn't play chess with her, she keeps changing the game. You think you're playing chess, she's moved on to something else. But the real reason why you shouldn't play chess with her is actually that kind of behavior is very normal in her world. There's a wonderful scene, if you do remember the book, where Alice and the Queen have been running really, really fast for a long time, and they pause for breath. And Alice, puffing and panting, she says, you know, in our country, if you've been running this far, this fast for so long, you generally get somewhere else. To which the Queen replies, she's a royal, so she's very haughty. Well, that's a slow sort of country. Now, here, you see, it takes all the running you can do to stay in the same place. If you want to get somewhere else, you must run twice as fast as that. I think you can see where I'm going with this. It's a metaphor. But it's a metaphor, we've already talked about it this evening, for the kind of world we now live in. Full of challenges and change. Technological change, shifts in markets, shift in politics. We live in a changing world, to make an obvious statement. And in a world like that, and bear in mind, these are not changes on their own, these are happening simultaneously and reinforcing each other. In a world like that, I don't believe we can trust to luck as far as innovation goes. We need to manage it, and I've already said we do know quite a lot about that, but we also need what we call dynamic capability. Wonderful academic word, but for me, what we really mean there is the ability to step back in a changing world and review how we're doing what we're doing and modify it if necessary. Change our approaches, perhaps a little tweak here, a little adjustment there, sometimes change the whole thing. Now, I'm old enough, for example, in the world of innovation, to remember when we didn't have an internet. Now, if you think about the internet today, it's a pretty powerful resource in the innovation work of any organization. But it hasn't happened automatically. We've had to learn to work with that tool, and it's taken us a long time. So we have this challenge of dynamic capability, careful reflection. And that's where we, as academics, really have something important to bring. Because we need to challenge, to inform, to help organizations in that thinking process, that learning process, whether as individuals or very often, if they're facing the same challenge, working together. Very kindly, you talked about our work on learning networks, but I believe passionately that we actually do need to learn together, and there's real benefits in doing it. But we can be architects, we can be conveners for that kind of activity. But it's not just about them, us helping them. We aren't dispassionate observers in this. It's not like watching a game of tennis. Bink, bonk, bink, bonk. It's not like that. We're in the game ourselves. We need to recognize as academics, we are involved in innovation. We're also part of that game. And these lessons apply very much to us as well. We need to think about our approach to innovation and how we're managing it. Now, my dear colleagues at Centrim, Brighton University, and particularly an old friend, David Francis, helped develop a great idea to help think about innovation management, and particularly where we should be paying attention. And one of the things that was quite valuable, and we found in interactions with many kinds of organizations helped, is to have a kind of compass. Where could we innovate, and what might we do about it? So imagine instead of north, south, east, and west, we have the 4 Ps. Now, point number 1, P for product. Now, not necessarily a product, it's what we offer the world. And as academics, we offer the world a great deal in terms of our courses, in terms of how we package up the knowledge that we want to enable them to have. So there's plenty of scope for product innovation. There's also another P, process innovation. Plenty of scope there to take advantage of new techniques, new technologies, to change the ways in which we deliver whatever it is we offer. For me, very relevant in this context, and why I'm so proud to become now a member of this university, is what we call position, the 3rd P. And position innovation essentially is about putting our innovation in a new context. In the business world, that would be marketing to a new segment or a new geographical region. But position innovation is really powerful because it's particularly about reaching people who haven't necessarily been reached before. And that's what the Open University has hugely been about. Very kindly, you mentioned, I really learned a great deal coming as a student to take a degree with the Open University in the UK. It taught me a great deal about something I'd been doing for 40 years. But I thought, there are interesting challenges to learning as a student and interesting ways that this can be delivered. And there's scope for innovation. One of the great sources of hope that I've seen is taking that idea. You may have come across, if not, I commend it to you, the University of Southern New Hampshire. Now, this is a very active player in the field of entrepreneurship, but not to serve the citizens of New England in the United States. University of Southern New Hampshire essentially has an open online degree targeted at refugee camps. Now, sadly, in the world, we have cities talking about 500,000 or more people living together in tents and so on, but they want to do something. They want empowerment. And education, as we know, can deliver that. And what they've done is design a program to be delivered on mobile phones mostly, where there is still access, but to enable and empower people to take control and do something with their own lives. For me, that's a great example of position innovation. But the last of my P's on our instant compass is paradigm. There you are, a nice Greek word. I'm not sure we English have ever used it quite correctly. I'm using it in Thomas Kuhn's sense of the word, but it's our way of looking at the world, our kind of mental spectacles. And it's challenging because it's reflexive. We have to think about ourselves and maybe be prepared to change ourselves quite deeply. Businesses worry about business model innovation. We, I think, also need to think about that. And I think right at this moment, we're at one of those junctures where we have to do that urgently. And that, of course, is the elephant in the room, artificial intelligence. It's huge. We don't even know what it can do, but it's changing in Red Queen terms very, very fast. I'm an optimist. I think when you work with innovation, you tend to have this wonderful belief that somehow our ingenuity will take us forward. It might be sidestepping, but we will move forward. Personally, I think AI has a great deal to offer, and I've been encouraged recently to see people beginning, or rather not people, research beginning to underpin this, to suggest that, yes, it might replace us, it might make us totally irrelevant, but quite possibly it could augment us. It could add to our capabilities. 2 studies very quickly, one Harvard Business Review, a nice suitable source, but basically a fairly well-controlled experiment in Procter & Gamble looking at making innovation happen with 4 different teams. Team 1 working in the traditional way that's worked for 200 years for a very successful business. Team 2 doing the same task is an AI team. Just give it to AI and let it do it. Team 3 uses AI in that rather experimental way. It's a sort of machine you can type into with particular queries. And Team 4 says, no, AI is a partner in the team. It's a full member of the team. It's just embodied in a slightly different way. But it's making contributions as an equal member of the team. I was delighted to see that the top scoring team by a significant margin was the AI team member. Not AI replacing or anything else, the AI team. But yesterday on the aeroplane, in fact, I came across a lovely World Bank study of secondary education in Nigeria. A controlled trial looking at 2 different groups of secondary education. Basically, the AI supported one. So AI, again, as a teammate, accompanying the teacher, scored significantly higher outcomes in terms of educational measurements. So I believe, personally, that if we embrace it, there's a great deal that we might be able to do with this technology as a partner. At the very least, we can't ignore it. But basically, when you go around those 4 points of that innovation compass, we're going to have to think about innovating, of course, but also be prepared to challenge the way we approach this innovation management question. As my friends know, I go on and on, so I'm now going to cut myself short, but let me just perhaps draw a couple of threads together. I realized, slightly worrying, that I began my PhD 50 years ago this year. Right? Now you have to imagine a slightly younger version of me, a young engineer, given a big question: how can we make innovation happen better in our company? So I did my PhD working in a company. It was my laboratory, and it was very much a kind of barefoot learning by doing, by challenging, by trying to discover stuff. And there wasn't so much written about it that I could draw on at the time. So I started with a question. I had great fun trying to find the answer to it, and I found some answers, but it raised 2 or 3 more questions. So I had fun trying to answer them, and so on. My academic career has been based on a proliferation of questions, which goes with the Red Queen world I was talking about. It's been a joy to work on. It's been a joy to work with so many people, and particularly, as you alluded, Anastasia, working with a laboratory that extends well beyond the boundaries of the university. But I think what's happened there is a process of, it's been a journey where I've been able to look at questions, follow them up, get some answers and hopefully share them, but move it forward. My favorite poet is T.S. Eliot, and T.S. Eliot, a great writer, has a very famous collection of poems called The Four Quartets. And there's a one line in it which I find very powerful. He says, "Old men should be explorers." Now, I don't think I'm that old yet. I think I've got a few good years left. And we were talking about this a little earlier on. But I do believe that we should be explorers. We should be, particularly in a world which is changing, doing some of that map making, asking the questions, and trying to come up and share the answers. For me, it's been a very interesting and enjoyable journey, and tonight has been a wonderful piece of punctuation. It's a comma. I hope it's not the end of my career, but it's been wonderful. But if I'm honest, let me confess to my friends here in this room, it's been a very selfish journey. Because what I've realized as a teacher is I love teaching, I do. It's something that really engages me. But I love teaching mainly because when I try and explain something to somebody else, I understand it better. And I think that, for me, is what's driven me forward. But I think it's also very much the kind of value that you share here in the university. So can I say once again, I'll try my Greek out one more time, Ευχαριστώ πολύ. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I would like to ask Professor Peter Augsdorfer to share some thoughts with us.
Dear John, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, let me be one of the first one to congratulate to this award, to this honor of this honorary PhD. I wonder actually why nobody else had the idea before Natasha, yeah, to do that. You have it well deserved, John. Now, let me just quickly introduce myself. My name is Peter Augsdorfer. I'm a professor of the Technical University of Ingolstadt in Germany. And why am I here? Why I have the honor to speak here? I think I serve as a good case example how John inspired other scholars. Now, this gown here is from Sussex University, and this is where George and Natasha and John and we all met and had a good time. Now, I want to tell you how I got inspired by John, and I think I can speak for a lot of other academics I know, and I'm absolutely sure had the timing not be so short term, you know, a lot of other, you could have probably tripled the room size here. How so many people got inspired by John. Now, I was a young PhD. In 1991, I started my PhD, and in 1992, I was short of cash. And I asked around and said, well, I got a job with another colleague at Science Policy Research Unit, Sussex University in Brighton. And somebody suggested, well, go over and see John at Brighton University. So I went over to see John, and he had a job for me. He said, I told him what I was planning to do, field work in Germany, field work in France, field work in England. And he said, okay, I can give you a contract. You interview people in Germany, you interview people in France, and then you come back with the results. And that's what I did, and I got the cash, and I was since then sort of a loose member of his continuous improvement group, and I occasionally went to London to the Chamber of Commerce, and I enjoyed working with him. Now, fast forward 10 years, in the meantime, I was a professor in Germany, and I was homesick for England. I spent 1 year at Centrum. This is the research institute John was leading at the time. And I met him while commuting between Germany and the UK in the train. 2005 this was. And I said, well, hey, John, I haven't seen you for such a long time. And he said, yeah, so what are you up to? So we exchanged quickly stories. And he said, well, I'm now into disruptive innovation. I was actually very glad that he is now in disruptive innovation because, to be honest, those continuous innovation people, they are the good ones doing the right thing, but only better. And my research was more about the underground disruptive innovation. This is a much more exciting field for me. So we talked to each other, and the idea came up to have a kind of platform for innovation managers of companies to exchange ideas how to manage disruptive innovation. And then from 2006 to 2016, really 10 years, we had several workshops where we had this exciting time where innovation managers brought their ideas, would exchange them, and that was a very, very exciting time for me. A lot of learning, a lot of new ideas. Anyway, this is really, I really enjoyed that. Now, there was another occasion where I needed John. In fact, after my PhD, I embarked on what they call habilitation, which is basically another PhD after the PhD. It's something they do in France and they do in Germany, and it's helpful for your career. I did it in France. And well, when I finished my thesis, I called John and said, look, I need an external examiner. Would you be prepared? And in fact, he and the co-author of his famous book, Managing Innovation, Joe Titt, they came and to France all the way and were my external examiners. So I was very grateful. And now this is why I have to thank Natasha for inviting me here to this award, and I really made it possible to come because I owe John a lot. So I really have to say thank you, John, for providing me with cash when I was a poor PhD student. I actually got a publication out with Rebecca Harding out of that trip. So my first publication, thanks to John, I got, he was my external examiner, so I had a degree thanks to John and 10 years of academic adventures with those innovation managers from those companies. So a really triple thank you, John, and I'm really glad that I had the opportunity to say this here. So thank you very much.
Κυρίες και κύριοι, στο σημείο αυτό η τελετή έλαβε τέλος. Σας ευχαριστούμε που μας τιμήσατε με την παρουσία σας. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point the ceremony has come to an end. We thank you for honoring us with your presence.